Hello, everybody. Let me turn off my Spotify. Hope everyone's having a great Monday. Welcome to a Week Ahead News Show, episode 30. 30 episodes of this bad boy. Can't wait for it. It is, what is it? September 29th, 2025. How you doing, Tommy?
Doing good. Thanks for having me on. Another week, another episode. We got some stories going on. You know, I like always. I struggle to say great stories. But we got some stuff to talk about. To our viewers, apologies in advance. I'm kind of coming through the end of a cold right now, so if I'm muting myself, you know, I'm in the middle of a coughing spree. So, but other than that, you know, I'm doing good. I'm glad to be here to be talking about the news, and yeah.
Hey, hope everyone had a good weekend. We had some good weather the past weekend and today. Um, I already said the episode. Once again, I'm Liam, my friend Tommy doing the show. If you're enjoying the content, drop a like. Once again, we have our Facebook in the description. Please follow us on there. And then also share our content. We post around noon to about 3 or 5 if I forget. The shows, we'll post them about an hour or two latest before the show starts on Facebook. But you can also click those links to watch the past episodes. We have a bell at the bottom right of us. Even on mobile, you can turn on notifications. That helps us out well. I'll be going into weather. Currently, today our high was 82, with a low at 53. Looks like it's partly cloudy, mostly cloudy. Right now it's 66. Let's see if the weather's updated on here. Getting a little chillier now. Tomorrow will be sunny, 80, 55, so we're getting a little hotter, but it's going to go back down. Wednesday, sunny, 72, 49. Thursday, 72, 47, partly sunny. Friday, sunny, 75, 51. Saturday, sunny, 77, 51. Sunday, sunny, 78, 52. So getting some more sun. It's kind of nice. Maybe we'll have another drought, but it looks like we're actually going to get rain Tuesday and Wednesday, next Tuesday and Wednesday. But next Monday will be sunny. Air quality has been good today. UV index been good. We're in first quarter of a moon with 50% illumination. Next full moon in 8 days, so be careful for them werewolves. Moon set is at 11:33. First light today was at 6:50. Sunrise is at 7:17. Sunset today at 7:07. Last light 7:35. Already dark out. We're under 12 hours of sunlight now. A total daylight about 11 hours and 49 minutes. Yuck. Not fun. We're actually at medium pressure too, so rip ears. Tommy will be going in stocks for the last 5 days, or what they call in stocks for the last week. Week to date stocks, pretty much. We have for day stocks for today.
Yep.
Small gains today, it looks like.
Yeah, small gains today. Over the last 5 days, down. Dow was down 48 points. S&P 500 was down 31 points. Nasdaq was down 191 points. So, all in the red.
Yeah.
Over the past week.
Yep, and all the gains for today were minor, so not really helping this out. So we'll have to see how this week helps out with last. We did have some green weeks for past 3 weeks, so I wouldn't be surprised if there was some minor dips for a while. We'll be going into our first topic, which is a quick funny topic. Tommy, are we starting it off? Hopefully, I made this title, Tommy. I hope you like it. I think it's a cool title with a double E's.
Trump UN escalator espionage.
Yeah,
there we
that's
go.
lit.
Okay, so for those that don't know, that earlier in the week there was the United Nations General Assembly, and of course our dear leader Donald Trump, had to make everything about himself. So Donald Trump, he went in the UN in New York City, and then the escalator stopped working, and then later his teleprompter stopped working, and of course our dear leader referred to this as active sabotage. So as Trump and First Lady Melania Trump, ascended the escalator, it quote stopped right in the middle. And Trump claimed that he nearly fell and called for accountability. Meanwhile, the United Nations responded that a videographer from the U.S. delegation going backwards on the escalator may have inadvertently triggered a built-in safety mechanism, causing the stop. So it doesn't seem like it was likely sabotage. It just seems like that some sort of videographer was trying to get a shot of the president, and then when they were doing their job, that they inadvertently set off some sort of safety mechanism designed to prevent injury on an escalator.
That makes sense in
Teleprompter,
fancy places
you know,
like that. They won't allow you to go backwards up an escalator. There's like a sensor on there to
Yeah.
realize it, or okay.
And also it talks a little bit in the article when I was reading before the show. The United Nations has been having a lot of problems with their escalators, which I'm gonna talk about here in a little bit. So, teleprompter failure. So Trump also complained his teleprompter was non-operational at the start of the speech. He alleged a triple sabotage, claiming the sound system in the hall was also disabled, so the world leaders couldn't hear him, and presumably the first one was the escalator. The UN later said that the teleprompter was supplied and operated by the White House. Okay,
Yeah, and something like it
um,
says right here, regardless of the audio, UN officials noted that the translations and sound were working via delegates' earpieces. I thought that's always how it was. I don't know if Trump's stupid and just
yeah,
never been to the UN, but since everyone speaks a different language, you speak, but everyone wears earpieces and just hears their own language translated. So that's kind of funny that he might not know that and is just being stupid about it. Yeah, maybe he's just egotistical and how authoritarian he is right now. He just wants everyone to hear his voice no matter what, just through their ears, just loud
yeah,
and in a room. I don't know. That's weird to me.
and that it's crazy, and the United Nations, that they run those they run the on-demand translation services, so all the world leaders, can hear what each others are saying, etc. I actually I had the distinct pleasure of touring UNESCO in Paris, United Nations educational something something. They provide sort of educational opportunities to places around the world. They designate UNESCO World Heritage sites and stuff like that. So I actually got to see sort of meeting chambers, and this is how the translation system works and stuff. It's actually quite impressive and quite astounding. So, but that was working, So it seems like that it seems very likely that the UN did nothing wrong, and just that the videographer was just walking backwards on the escalator, and something was wrong, with the teleprompter because of the probably the unpaid intern who set it up,
Yeah,
at the White
exactly.
House. Um, so Trump publicly demands the UN, preserve safety security footage, lost investigations, blah 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 blah. So really, I think the heart of this story is that our president is willing to make everything about himself. Willing to make everything about himself. He's willing to go up in front of the whole world, in front of the United Nations, and complain that the escalator didn't work, that that he is somehow being hurt, despite the fact that he's a straight white guy who's the president of the United States. It's just kind of ridiculous, but this
Yeah,
is how it is. It's just more of a Donald Trump just putting himself in the center of everything.
being
I also
stupid.
wanted to point out kind of very briefly here, um, the AP article that we're referencing right here. I got a little chuckle out of this. It mentions in this article, it says, in recent months, UN offices in New York and Geneva had intermittently turned off elevators and escalators as part of steps to save money because of a liquidity crisis at the world body. That's due in part to delays in funding from the United States. So a lot of these problems that may be occurring at the United Nations with their escalators and their elevators. Maybe if Donald Trump you know really wants to address that, maybe he should um himself and the Republican Party should actually appropriately fund the United Nations. But
Agreed, because I remember
that's
his
neither
first
here nor
presidency,
there. So
Tommy. He was like talking about how he was gonna like stop funding the United Nations, at least if other countries weren't gonna pitch in more. And Germany ended up pitching in a little bit, but like a lot of times they meet
yeah.
in America for the most part. It really helps out that New York City economy, I bet, having all those world leaders there for a couple days. So I mean, you could give him some money too. I mean, we gave like what 20 billion to Argentina. I just saw. So I mean, it's kind of crazy what's going on right now.
And sort of when I toured UNESCO, it was actually after we stopped funding the United Nations. So you could imagine that the delegation of American students coming into tour was not very popular.
That's funny. Yeah.
Um, you know, but and international politics, when these sorts of things are not funded by the United States, they're funded by our foreign adversaries,
Hmm.
um, primarily China, um, and
China.
that just sort of devalues the United States' position on the world stage. So it's a bad move all around.
Agreed. I'm ready to go into a national one topic because I kind of want to give my input for that one.
Yep.
All right.
Yes.
So there was another shooting. There was a gunman in Michigan church shooting. He ended up dying after exchanging gunfire with police. Here's what we know so far. And a lot of this comes from a CBS News article you could look up if need be. What happened on Sunday morning at Grand Blanc Township, Michigan? A gunman opened fire at Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints on McCandless Road. The shooting left 2 people killed and 8 others wounded. Law enforcement said a suspect died after exchanging gunfire with police in the church parking lot. I guess he had a truck with 2 American flags, rammed it into the church, caught the church on fire, started shooting. Calls reporting the shooting came in about 10:25 a.m. and officers were on the scene in less than a minute, which that's crazy. There must have been officers at least driving by, maybe close to the scene. Maybe they're by a road that cops just like staying at and trying to get people for tickets or something. I mean, less than a minute's insane. The suspect died around 10:33 a.m., so 8 minutes, even after the first calls, before being taken into custody. The suspect is a Thomas Jacob Sanford, age 40, from Burton, Michigan. Sanford had served in the U.S. Marines from 2004 to 2008, including deployment in Operation Iraqi Freedom from August 2007 from March 2008. His residence, about 7 miles from a church, was being searched for Michigan State Police and a bomb squad. Authorities may have been bomb-making materials in his home, though it is unclear at the time if anything had been found or if he was putting it together. Responses and investigation, local, state, and federal authorities are involved, of course. FBI, county guys, bomb squad was deployed to his house, like I said, Ashland County. In the aftermath, neighbors were restricted from entering their homes as the area was secured. They didn't want bombs going off after. Authorities remain uncertain about motive and whether additional weapons or material were involved. I did see some rumors that I think allegedly he was married to a Mormon woman for a while, because this is supposed to be a Mormon church. So apparently, I don't know if that leads into it. There was a shooting in Texas a couple years ago that was basically the same thing. The dude got mad and shot up his wife's church. Very sad situation. Because I was listening to the Young Turks today at 8. At 6 when they start. A little bit, and they were talking a little bit about it. They're finding out a little bit about it. Because I don't know if you saw Tommy, but Pam Bondi spoke about it. I don't know if she was there, but she definitely spoke about it. And she was saying how, it's attacks on Christians and stuff like that. So she's kind of trying to tie it into the Charlie Kirk and all these leftists. But sometimes, these shootings are just acts of anger and acts of, really just personal people trying to attack other personal people in places they know are really hurt, like we saw in Texas. So we'll have to see. Residents were shocked. In a small suburban community, people expressed disbelief that such violence could occur close to home. Kind of like same thing in Texas, too. One neighbor noted, "It's obviously getting close to us. When it starts getting close, you're not just looking at a TV screen." President Trump called the shooting horrendous and pledged full support for state and local officials in the investigation on Truth Social. And that's it for me on that. Kind of besides, just, I always have to do for these things. That's kind of how I feel about it too. Like, I just have to condemn it. You shouldn't be killing people. We don't know what it is yet. If it's over beliefs, if it's over personal things, you just can't do that. It really just shows America's mental health decline, and that we can't really be giving people guns in the mass we do, with the mass ammunition we do, for that. A lot of people say, well, people will buy it off the black market. Yes and no. I mean, when the availability is there so easily, when you can go to most Cabela's, Bass Pro Shops, most gun places and get big rounds, any ammo you want, it's not counted, it's not regulated. You could lie on a lot of your forms when you buy a gun, I guess, and still get it. When you do medical background checks because of mental health, but really, I think that if we do limit mass stock of ammo and then mass capacity mags, that really helps people out. Because I remember even in high school when I did debate, we would always say it only takes one bullet to kill someone or stop someone. I'm a big believer in shotguns because those kind of stop a lot. Even in pistols, 9 rounds fine. You don't need a 30-round pistol mag. You don't need, even in my opinion, a 30-round AR mag. I get reloading sucks. But just have 4 15-round mags, 4 10-round mags. It's still a rifle. It's expensive ammo, too. But it's also kind of when you know that if you're safe with it. We also know that in America with this mental health issue, we can't let crazies have in this because this allows them to kill in such a rapid pace. So that's my personal opinion about it. We definitely don't need crazy round mags. There's 60 120-round mags you can get, like the dude uses in Vegas. So we definitely need to step back. When we know we have a mental health crisis and we know we have a gun crisis, we need to fix both of them at once. But that's me. What do you think, Tommy?
No, I fully agree with you. I am not very well read up on this story, and that is intentional. Actually, I have stopped following mass shooting news stories. To me, it's all that really matters is we need to get control of the guns, and we need to start working on that and putting in place reasonable common sense reforms to stop people from being able to commit these sorts of horrendous acts of violence.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, as someone who is well read on the news and follows local, national, international politics, that's all I really need to know about that is that's we have a clear action step going forward, which is, we need to place reasonable restrictions on guns in order to protect the public safety. Um, and I'm not gonna, regurgitate what you said. I completely agree with you. I think a cap on magazine capacities is a fantastic place to start. I think if we just, um, if we just simply lessened the amount of bullets that could be placed in a magazine, that could go a long way in harm reduction.
Yeah, medical background checks in
Personally,
every state, red flag laws would help out a
background
lot.
checks, red flag. Yes, absolutely. And I consider myself to be a moderate on the issue of firearms. I think just with anything, I think people have the right to defend themselves and their family under the Second Amendment, but I also think that people have the right to go out, be able to worship, go to school, go to college without being feared of being feared without fear of being shot down. So essentially, it's incumbent upon our legislators to sort of balance the interests, balance the fundamental rights of gun owners, along with the fundamental rights of people to be able to live in a s- in to live, work, worship, and learn in a safe way. We have to balance that better, because certainly right now, we're way, way, way on too far on the side of, anarchy when it comes to firearms, and we're seeing the sorts of chaos and devastation that it causes for our communities. So again, I totally condemn these sorts of actions, and at the end of the day, it's incumbent upon our legislators to pass common sense gun reform that the vast majority of Americans support.
Agreed, Tommy. Um, I was gonna say something else too, but I might be forgetting. So I can go on to the next one, which will be a quick one, our local topic one, which is about how the planning commission is to rebid for the Golden Triangle project. Um, this was by the Trumbull Chronicle, or Tribune Chronicle. Sorry, I don't want to say it wrong. From September 2026. The original bid had a failure. The original bid opening held on September 5th was unsuccessful. No acceptable bids were received. Sometimes it depends on the project, but if a estimator of a construction company, a design team that sends out for bid, they have an estimate. If you bid over 10%, sometimes 15%, sometimes 20%, depending on the project, could be ODNR, ODOT, depending on where you're getting funding, that bid is considered unsuccessful because they're thinking that, oh, you're scamming us. Because a professional engineer signed off on an estimate that was this number, and you as a contractor are saying it's over 20%, let's say, over 10% for some projects, or even tighter. Um, so this is basically what happened here. The Planning Commission will revise bid documents and reissue the call for bids in October. So basically, what they would try to do is the engineers would try to cook the numbers a little bit more, make them a little bit higher. Maybe they had older numbers for certain items, and didn't realize it. Put out a new cost estimate and hope contractors get close to it. The Golden Triangle Correlation and Improvement Project is a design to deliver street improvements in Howland and Warren, benefiting area manufacturing business. Funding sources include local matching funds and assistance from the EDA or Economic Development Administration. So that might be some of the issues as well. Broader commission work and community projects. Beyond the Golden Triangle project, the Planning Commission is engaging in several related activities. First is a Mecca Township collaboration, helping for townships comprehensive plan development. Those always help out for townships, villages, cities. Assisting with a historical marker program to honor the origins of Erie. Oh man, of the Erie dairy fishing lore in Mecca. Guess they made a fishing. Some dude made a fishing lore out there. Good for him. Never heard of the Erie Dairy? God bless him. Township Hall and Child Care Center project. The commission is supporting planning for a new Township Hall and Child Care Center, which might host Head Start, after school care, and senior services community health. There's also proposed to install sidewalk for 2026 and 2027, connecting a new hall to a high school and community fishing area. Funding is about $500,000 total, about from $100,000 from the state capital's improvement grant, plus the American Rescue Plan funds. Hopefully, they come in from Trumbull County and the township. Also, in Newton Township, they completed a comprehensive analysis of the zoning rules versus it's a 2019 plan. Where basically they're planning on future updates to zoning to help out that area as well. They're addressing special flood area regulations uncovered by a 2020 FEMA and Ohio Department of National Resource audit. So that's not good, but hopefully I can fix that. I was looking a little bit more into this Golden Triangle area, and it's basically they're doing a lot. They're doing Commonwealth and North River Road intersection improvements. Doing a signalized crosswalk at Deities Road at Liberty Steel. At Mill and Larkmont, they're doing intersection improvements. They're doing stormwater improvements. Deities Road improvements for road water and storm. Certain areas to Brownfields, Phoenix Road, North River Roads, street and stormwater improvements. Griswold Street improvements. Clark Dietrich water line. Bunch of other stuff that'll be interesting. So hopefully that'll be cool. Bronze Road improvements, basically $6 million of improvements, and that's on the Howland Township website. It's kind of getting pushed by the county a lot, so hopefully they can keep it. It was last updated in 2022, so hopefully they're updated. They can get this done. Gary Schaefer from the county is working on it a lot, so that's awesome. There's Kim Mozzarella from Howland Township Planning Director, and Mike Keys, Warren City Community Development Director. This probably was in 2022, so it could be updated. That was 3 years ago. But good to see. Hopefully they can keep doing it. Initial bids, failures, unnecessary careful revision of specs, outreach, or cost adjustments. That could be it as well, too. Sometimes if they have the specs wrong or they have too many questions, if they have issues with a bid. 1 second. Or sometimes if a bid's just wrong. Sometimes you could tell they did their math wrong, and they're like, oh, well, that's wrong, so we're not taking this guy. Some of these projects are big, so that could happen. It is getting close to the end of the year as well, but this will be a project for next year. Interconnected planning, infrastructure, community services, historical reconfiguration of zoning, and environmental work are tied together in local planning efforts. With funding coordination essential, combining local funds, federal grants, and assistance programs, it's critical to making projects viable to get all that funding in the right. My company at Vedantis, we probably have 10 people just in funding, and they're very good at that and help out that a lot. The Golden Triangle project aims to support manufacturing and mobility. The township hall and child care project seeks to provide social and health services, and flood hazard and zoning efforts aim to protect residents and also some economic development. That's really it for me on that one. I think it's good. They need to keep doing it. But like I said, it's pretty crucial to get all that funding in a row. Hopefully these contractors get their ducks in a row and they make some big money. So
It's so critical that we continue to invest in critical infrastructure in our area as we see more and more investment come in. Kimberly Clark, the Foxconn plant, AI data centers in Lordstown, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of things going on right now in this area, and what a lot of it is we'll wait and see how it comes to fruition. But certainly if a lot of these things come out and actually happen, it's going to require a lot of robust investment from state, local, and federal government officials to sort of build up the infrastructure to sort of support these sorts of initiatives. So I think this is a good thing that's
and
going
another
on
quick
right
good
now.
example,
Any sort
Tommy,
of
is like that 82 and 46 interchange. Like that construction sucks
Yeah.
right now because of a blockage. But once it's done, it's going to be really nice, and there's going to be sidewalk. So like people that live in that area of Howland, they could walk, get that area. You could basically walk
Yeah.
from Lowe's all the way to what's that, Howland Corner. Once that's done, so it's very nice.
Yeah, which
They're
will be
kind of
nice.
doing the same thing on Belmont right now in Liberty too. They're gonna tie Belmont into basically where Old North Side used to be in Youngstown. It's where the other hospital is,
Okay.
Saint Elizabeth. So definitely agree. It kind of sucks
Yeah,
because I wonder how much of Trump taking away money and cutting funds is going to hurt a lot of these development. But we'll have to see. Some stuff
that,
gets delayed, some stuff's
that's what I
coming
was gonna
back.
say. Yeah, for sure.
All right, I'm good.
You got
I'm good
anything else
for the
down this, or
next
should I,
one.
you want to
Yeah.
go on to go on to Comey?
Heck yeah, you're
So
probably excited to talk about this one, huh?
yeah, so for those for, for those that know me, I do not like the word lawfare, but this is lawfare going on right now. Okay, that's what this is. Okay, so James Comey indictment, former FBI director James Comey was charged by a federal grand jury. I just want to point out, a grand jury is very very different than uh, a regular jury. A
Yeah,
grand
it's like
jury,
it's
there's
in
only the
private, right?
prosecutor. It's in private, only the prosecutor, presents their evidence. It's very one-sided. It's just about probable cause. It's not about any sort of, guilt or innocence determination. In fact, of I would say probably an overwhelming majority of serious legal thinkers don't even think really a grand jury serves any real purpose. In fact, you don't even have a constitutional right under the federal constitution to a grand jury. Like the state of Ohio could adjust its laws, adjust its constitution, and not have a grand jury system, and that'd be totally fine. You
Oh
know,
wow.
a grand jury would indict, a ham sandwich.
Oh
That's sort
wow.
of the
That's what about
phrase. But
Casey Anthony.
so FBI Director James Comey, he was charged of making one count of making false statements to Congress, one count of obstruction of justice. A third potential false statement count was rejected by the grand jury. It's also important to note that these two sorts of other counts, they were in Comey was indicted by very very slim margins. And it's sort of crazy to think, the grand jurors just barely voted to indict, um, according to the media, but the prosecutor, Comey, didn't have his defense attorney there. You know what I mean? So that really speaks volumes about the case, I think.
Oh wow.
So alleged offenses, false testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee. You say that he didn't authorize FBI officials to anonymously leak information about the FBI probe into Trump or Hillary Clinton.
Which they could definitely get
Uh,
what's that? Patel. They can get Patel on that for his last 2 weeks speaking to Congress and the House.
yeah, cat. uh, So 2018 DOJ Inspector General report, Andrew McCabe said Comey had approved the leak to the Wall Street Journal. However, McCabe himself, made misleading statements, complicating credibility. Um, Investigations that they're sort of talking about, the FBI probe into Russian interference in the election, FBI probe into Hillary Clinton's private email server, and then you got all that was going on, and then of course you also have the political context, which is just sort of unavoidable. So of course, Trump is a longtime adversary of Kobe. Trump fired Kobe in 2017 during the probe, which was sort of one of the first um, impediments into the independence of the Justice Department
Yeah.
under the first Trump term. You know, um, you know,
And like
Trump
going after
repeatedly,
people is crazy. Like you're saying, lawfare is crazy. Because the whole like Russia
yeah,
probe, multiple branches of the NSA confirm that. And it's just that Trump's so
yeah,
mad that like he thinks that like that made him win the election, and it swayed the election. It influenced people. That's all it
yeah,
was. But like any time that like another opponent makes something crazy bigger than what it actually was, then you know that okay, it's bothering them. But
yeah.
go on, sorry.
No, I appreciate that. Let me be very clear. It is proven that the Russians interfered in the 2016 presidential election. Like that just prove it.
Yeah.
Okay? Like if like what's up like when someone says to me that like they didn't interfere in the election, I'm like, sure, and the sky's green. Like okay. Like they just don't know what they're talking about,
Yeah.
So
They're
the
influenced by
long time
politicians.
yeah, who are liars, like Trump just lying to his opponents. Russia didn't help me. Meanwhile, he's on live TV. Russia, if you have the files, release the file. Like, give me a break. But anyway, going back to this. So, Trump, repeatedly pressured the Department of Justice, to prosecute his opponents. He just recently, put in this new prosecutor who then went before this grand jury and prosecuted this case. There was other career prosecutors who say, I'm not doing this. And then of course,
Yep.
Trump
Because what is this? Comey, Adam
after
Schiff, Letitia James. Letitia James went after him for
yeah,
taxes stuff, and now he's going after her.
yeah,
Like that's just crazy. It's so authoritarian. It blows my mind. Dude's butt hurt.
yeah. Y- And then Trump goes on his own bullshit social media platform, but he's like calls Comey a dirty cop and a total slimeball on True Social. Like okay, I guess that's not vindictive. Um, and then he denied knowledge of the indictment. Sure, buddy. Sure. And I want to sell the Golden Gate Bridge, like come on. Denied knowledge of the indictment, but said it's about justice, not revenge. Give me a break.
Yeah.
And then like I was saying, this new prosecutor, Lindsay Halligan, who should probably be disbarred.
Trump's former lawyer, personal
Trump's
lawyer.
former personal.
That's crazy, bro.
Yeah, sworn in just days before the indictment, who was never a prosecutor, by the way, is now leading this case. So, it's gonna be interesting to see how long she retains her law license. So, as these sorts of cases, progress through the federal judiciary, there's going to be lots of questions. There's going to be a lot of motions. This is very well might not even make it to trial. Certainly, James Comey, is saying, he wants a trial and stuff, but there's going to be a barrage of pretrial motions, malicious prosecution, etc., summary judgment. I can go on and on and on, but
I can't wait till I'm gonna run for president,
to
Tommy,
see.
and I'm gonna bring in J. Edgar Hoover's body and indict him for killing MLK. I don't care. It's a symbol of it.
Is the symbol of it all?
Yeah.
Resurrect him.
Just to kill him again? That'd be lit. But yeah, this lawfare is crazy.
Yeah, it's all absolutely crazy what's going on, and it's just totally, totally, totally unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since the Watergate scandal with Richard Nixon, we have there's been an informal custom of, the president, while the president is, the head of the executive branch, and the Department of Justice is an executive branch department, for various public policy reasons, the president was to be more hands-off with that department versus the others, because we learned throughout the Watergate era, sort of the problems that can cause. And unfortunately, we have a president who doesn't respect sort of the institutional norms, doesn't sort of respect sort of, sorts of basic principles of justice, fair dealing, and decency, that are required for effectively running a complex country based on, complex people with complex laws. And Trump is willing to, not only is he willing to ignore all that, he's willing to actively pursue attacking his political enemies. So it's totally disgusting, and it should be condemned, and I'll keep following this story and keep you updated as it works its way through the judiciary.
Agreed. And we'll keep probably little snippets every week talking about it if it gets big, but it probably won't. It's kind of hard to find, the text messages and calls from two people. Well, three people. President, FBI director, CIA director. Those guys kind of know how to encrypt and hide everything that they're saying, so it's going to be hard to prove that even if he knew, he was lying. Are you good to go into local topic 2? You got back-to-back, Tommy.
I'll go right through this real quick. So we got a new AG candidate. Okay, so Democrat from Upper Arlington joins race for Ohio Attorney General. Candidate John Kulowitz declared he is running for Ohio Attorney General in 2026. He's our Democratic candidate and he's a current Upper Arlington City Council member, longtime lawyer and attorney, former partner at Columbus law firm Voyers, Sater, Seymour, and Pesse. I'm sorry, I pronounced that well. Too many names on that board. Too many names. He's argued cases before the U.S. Supreme Court and the Ohio Supreme Court. It's actually called the Supreme Court of Ohio, not the Ohio Supreme Court. That's kind of a uh nitpick of mine. Um, framing. He says that the attorney general should be the people's lawyers and part of the solution. Um, and he's contrasting himself, with David Yost, who is our current attorney general, who is just been waging, um, just been a very poorly performing attorney general in my eyes. Um, and he's contrasting himself with that, and he is promising a vigorous new approach to be the people's attorney. So he commits to standing up to anyone who doesn't he commits to standing up to anyone who doesn't put the rule of law and Ohio's families first, which is very different than our current attorney general. He joins the race against a guy named Elliot Forhan, a former state representative. And on the other side, you have Republican Keith Faber, who is the current auditor and is now running for attorney general as the Republicans keep trying to get around Ohio's term limit laws. And David Yost cannot run for re-election. His political future is uncertain as he got cucked out of the governor's race.
Rip.
And yeah, so we're gonna have to see how this all plays out. And yeah, but keep an eye on this race, Ohio Attorney General's race, and John Kulowitz.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Opponent's his Democratic contender. Hopefully he's not too... he should be able to beat him pretty easily. Republican side, I don't know, because we're a red state. So, sadly, I don't know how it's going to go on that end. You know what I mean? If Vivek's paying a ton of money, a lot of these people might just vote down ballot as well and vote, AG, all these people in on red sides as well. For like it says, last time a Democrat won a statewide elected executive branch race in Ohio was in 2008. So it's been a little bit with that Obama run.
Yeah.
But things aren't looking good on
We certainly have our work cut out for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
We certainly have our work cut out for us. The electoral landscape in Ohio is obviously challenging, but Ohio is worth fighting for.
Mm-hmm.
There are, there's a variety of great people, in Ohio who would be fantastic public servants, and we just have to keep doing the work, and hopefully, if we keep doing our part, along with sort of some more favorable national winds blowing our way.
Yeah.
If I'm just being honest.
That's what I was about to say
too. We
kind
could
of
do
wait.
things
That'd
here.
be nice.
Yeah, so that's all I got to say on this, and Liam, this is on to foreign policy.
Yep, we're international. Make sure you drop a like. Yeah. Make sure you drop a like if you're enjoying the content. We got good viewership tonight. I appreciate everyone stopping by to watch on your Monday night. Don't forget you can watch past episodes or sports show. Everything's on our YouTube. But yeah, drop a like. That really helps out. That YouTube algorithm helps us get seen by more people, get that tree out. Do you want me to start this one off, you said, Tommy?
Yeah, feel free.
Heck yeah. So, in a quick international topic, Trump came out with a 20-point plan for Gaza. Very interesting. It's so interesting. We use AI to rewrite articles. Like Tommy was saying, it was wrong about Supreme Court of Ohio. But it always says former President Donald Trump, and that is true.
A lot of people are wrong about that.
But Trump's still president, and he was a former president, but I guess he's president right now. He revealed a 20-point plan aiming to end the Israel-Hamas war in Gaza. The proposal includes immediate ceasefire steps, hostage exchanges, basically all the hostages. I think there's about 24 left living, and I think 16 passed that they still want. Post-war governance structures, security arrangements, and redevelopment of Gaza. Don't want Gaza redeveloped, so that kind of sucks, but we'll go into that. But ceasefire and hostage release, if both sides accept, the war ends immediately, with military operations halted and front lines frozen. Within 72 hours of Israel's formal acceptance, all Israel captives, alive or dead, will be released. In return, Israel would free 250 Palestinians with life sentences and others 1,700 others detained after October 7th. So it's very interesting. Like I said, if you know what happened on that date, basically what happened was Hamas took, I think it was 250 Israelites or people from Israel, but Israel has now taken 2,000 people from Palestine, as well as bombing them and killing 60,000, 20,000 being children. I think it's like 65, probably 68 now, of demilitarization and disarmament. All offensive military infrastructures, tunnels, weapons productions would be destroyed and prevented from reconstruction. Independent monitors would oversee disarmament. Weapons would be discommissioned or bought back. For transitional governance, Gaza would be governed by a technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee under oversight of an international board of peace. Trump would chair that board of peace. Other global leaders, Tony Blair, may participate. That's interesting. He's really trying to get that Nobel Peace Prize. It would be interesting if at times get a Nobel Peace Prize. He's really doing that 1930s, getting up in there. He's really trying. But that's scary. Hamas and allied forces would have no role, direct or indirect, in future governance. Security and International Force, or U.S.-led international ISF, or International Stabilization Force, would deploy to Gaza to help maintain security, border control, and train vetted Palestinian police. I do like that. That's a good idea because Israel wouldn't be bombing their people if we had a bunch of Americans there protecting them. We already had some Americans die in this war, but if we have a bunch of people in the military dying with them, people would actually care then, because then their sons wouldn't be coming home. To be blunt, Israel would not annex or occupy Gaza permanently. The IDF would withdraw in the stages tied to demilitarization benchmarks. The reconstruction and development, an economic development plan would rebuild infrastructure, services, and economy in Gaza. Humanitarian aid would flow freely under UN and neutral oversight for Red Crescent, bypassing interference from either party, and long-term political pathway. While immediate statehood is not guaranteed, the plan keeps open a future pathway towards Palestinian self-determination, conditional on reforms and redevelopment. Interfaith dialogue and narrative change efforts also included in foster coexistence. Netanyahu support. Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu publicly endorsed the plan, signaling alignment on many of its provisions. I'm kind of scared of that because of how much he went in the past. Like I was telling Tommy before the show, John Oliver just did a special. You could even see it on YouTube if you have HBO, watch it, about this. And he talks about, I think in the 90s, basically for a while, Hamas has been around since the 90s. And basically Jon Stewart said that Netanyahu would basically find ways to, kind of like the U.S. government, and push money to Hamas. Because as an imperialistic government, you always need an enemy to attack, so you could say, oh, well, now we're, using up their economy, we're taking their land, or taking their national resources. So a lot of times, like with the U.S., with Al-Qaeda and certain other people in the Middle East, ISIS, we fund them to fight other people, or we fund them knowing that, hey, we're going to fight them one day. And so I kind of feel like Netanyahu is very scary to trust in this, because if that is true, like he alleged of doing and giving them money, so that's Hamas and skepticism. Hamas has not formally agreed. Some critics see the plan as heavily biased towards Israel's interests, especially with Trump as the head of this peace board, and there needs to be more guidelines to basically protect the Palestinians and owning that land and infrastructure after. If you go and put all this infrastructure in and still get the people out of there and bring in other people, that's still not good. That's still a genocide. Implementation and feasibility concerns. The plan relies on optimistic assumptions about cooperation, timing, and enforcement. Many details are vague. The size of a stabilization force rules of engagement, who contributes troops, withdrawal timelines and oversight mechanisms. Hardline factors in Israel policies may resist major concessions or Palestinian governance roles and Palestinian oversight, which I feel like is really important, especially with all the damage they've taken from this. And once again, it's kind of hard to trust someone when they've been bombing you nonstop. And I told Tommy they've had 2 peace deals already, and Israel bombed them after they got the hostages both times. So it's kind of hard to be like, oh, this whole plan's going to go through if Israel just starts bombing them after they get all of their hostages now. The plan attempts to shift from a purely military approach to a mix of governance, security, and development. But balancing those is complex in a fragmented and volatile region. I definitely agree with that. And I definitely think it needs to be headed by the Palestinian people, their own elected government, because that's what they'll trust the most. And after all that damage, that'll really repair them the quickest and give them faith again as fast as they can. And that's about it for me. I kind of get both my inputs on both of them. I really don't trust Israel to be well with it, but if they can, good to them. It's just scary as well, Trump being the head of this. Like I've said before, if he's made his son-in-law the head of the Middle East, knowing he was Jewish. I don't know if that would definitely stop you from getting a job, but it kind of shows his influence on it and where he wants it to be pushed. He's taken money from everyone, though. He's taken money from the Saudis. He's taken money from Qatar now, tradition Muslim countries. But we've given a lot of money to Israel, and he's probably taken a lot of money from Israel as well. So it's scary. I kind of feel like Trump's this guy that takes money from everyone, and he doesn't really care. He just still does what he wants. So you just give him money to be on his good side, like Tim Cook did to get them tariffs removed from Apple. So, but this is different. This is war, and I want it to end. I just don't want Trump to be like the head of a board that oversees it. I want it to be more help. Like I said, help for Palestinian people. What's your input, Tommy?
So I could talk about this for a long time. I'll keep this very brief. The problem, as brief as I can, as brief as my nature allows. Uh, so the problem with this conflict is still that everybody involved in this conflict is kind of an asshole. Okay? Like everyone is so disingenuous besides the people in the middle. Like, the people in the middle, they're the ones that are, suffering. I feel so bad for them, but the power players, the people that have any sort of the people that are steering the ship on if this genocide in Gaza keeps going or ends,
Yeah.
they're all very bad, disingenuous people. So you have Hamas, which is a terrorist organization.
Yeah.
You have Donald Trump, who is a moron, who's a bad guy. I can't say enough bad things about him. And then you have Benjamin Netanyahu, who's a war criminal. You got Donald Trump, a war criminal, and a bunch of terrorists.
Yeah.
Have fun making peace. You know what I mean? Like, in theory, I favor a peace solution. A reaffirmation of a 2-state solution. Where the Palestinians can live in a state full of dignity and respect. I also think that state cannot, be allowed to be used as a safe haven, for terrorists against Israel and other areas. Hamas cannot be allowed to, remain in there. The hostages have to be released, but also, Israel has to, respect the sovereignty, the eventual sovereignty of Gaza and the West Bank. Okay. And it's just hard to see. It's just hard to see a world where that happens. Unfortunately, a world where, there's a strong 2-state solution. And the biggest thing that's impeding that is the disingenuous actors. When you're implementing a plan like you just talked about, a 20-point plan that's going to involve all these sorts of different complex facets of building up a state, etc. There has to be some sort of level of fair dealing and trust and mutual respect, and that just simply isn't there. The Israelis, time after time after time, have been not negotiating in good faith. And it's just hard to imagine any sort of real concrete palpable solution with the leaders in Hamas, with the leaders in the United States, and with the leaders in Israel, all just seeming to be, so I would say, disinterested in doing what's right. I
Yeah.
also want to point out very briefly that, there are elements within the Israeli government that do not want a peace deal. Okay. There are, part of the 20-point plan is that Israel would not annex Gaza. I did not see the West Bank specifically mentioned, but there are absolutely parts of the Israeli government that want to annex Gaza, and then that simply cannot be allowed to stand, or with Gaza, or with Gaza or the West Bank. Um, the end of the day is, we need to have a new president, president of the United States, who's willing to, work constructively towards world peace. They need to get a new prime minister in Israel, and Hamas cannot be allowed to exist anymore. And once all three of those things happens, then I'm a lot more, um, I'd be a lot more hopeful of a concrete peace deal. But let's see how this progresses. This just happened today.
Mm-hmm.
But I am not optimistic.
Agreed, Tommy. Agreed. And that's really all my input on that as well. So, you good too?
Yep.
All right. We basically
Yep.
made it an hour, a little over an hour. Good show. I enjoyed everyone stopping by. Appreciate everyone coming in tonight. Hope you have a great week. We'll be here again. Thursday night with a Northeast Ohio Sports Show. Me and maybe Hunter, definitely me. That's it for me tonight, guys. Good night, Youngstown.